Good afternoon, everyone. आवाज ठीक है? Yeah. So my name is Rajesh Govindraj. So I'll be taking the discussion of Geography and Environment section of this 2022 Civil Services Prelim GS 1. So I hope all of you have written the paper. All of you have written? So, ठीक है. So whoever has written, how was your experience? कैसा रहा? So how was your experience? Okay. It's a bit of uncertain than the previous years. Anyone else? Elimination was eliminated. So that's a good statement. ठीक है. So yes, overall there were many surprises and some questions on predictable lines and many questions on unpredictable lines. So overall, from Vision IAS, we were of the collective opinion that the cutoff should be around 85. Okay, the cutoff should be around 85. So there are a few reasons for that. So based on the analysis of the previous papers as well as the current trend. So this year, the General Studies paper 1 was moderately tough. It was moderately tough. And second, the number of vacancies are higher this year. Okay, so good for us. And third, CSAT was also considered to be almost as tough as GS. Okay, this is considered to be tough as GS by many. So because of all this and the overall performance of the students, based on this, we have come to conclusion that it should be around 85. So coming to the overall analysis of the General Studies paper 1, so I would say, as I said earlier, the paper was moderately difficult towards moderately difficult. It is not completely difficult. Okay, very tough बोलना भी मुश्किल है. So but moderate, average है, ऐसे बोलना भी मुश्किल है. So in between that, it is moderately difficult. So few of the sections we have seen decrease in overall weightage. For example, modern Indian history has seen decrease in number of questions, right? And we have also seen few of the sections where increase in number of questions. Luckily, geography, where we have seen increase in number of questions. And IR, international relations, usually neglected by the students, that has also seen increase in the number of questions. So other than this, we have seen various other sections on the expected lines. So for example, polity and governance, almost on the expected lines. And environment and ecology, yes. Economics, again on the, I'm talking in terms of the number of questions. Okay, so of course there's individual analysis would be there. Each of the faculties would take up this. And in fact, even science and technology was also nearly 10 to 11 questions are there. So that is also expected. Jitna expected tha, utna hi hai. So in fact, art and culture, ancient, medieval. So all of these, the jitna weightage expected kiya tha, utna hi hai. And including current affairs, of course. Current affairs, you can see that overall the paper is driven by current affairs at all the different, in all the different sections. So one important change which we can observe in this paper compared to the previous ones which we have seen is that lesser choice for elimination. So elimination is eliminated. So lesser choice for elimination. So basically in this case, you have to be very, very sure of the answer. Then only you should go for marking. So all these years, usually many of the students used to attempt मैक्सिमम 100 आउट ऑफ 100 हो सकता है तो मार्क कर दो, ऐसे भी बहुत लोग करते थे. सो अभी इस बार वो चांस बहुत कम था, बिकॉज यू कैनॉट जस्ट टेक ए रैंडम गेस, दैट इज नॉट सजेस्टेड. एंड इन मेनी ऑफ द आंसर्स यू शुड नो ऑल द 4 अटेम्प्ट्स, तब भी आप पूरा अटेम्प्ट कर पाते हैं. So in these kind of questions where there is no choice of elimination, you cannot go for guess at all. No guess working. Even if you are left with 2 option 3 option, guess working कर ही नहीं सकते. So here I would say where you have no idea at all, you have to skip that questions. It is very important that you skip such questions where you are totally taking a random guess. तो उस type of questions थोड़ा सा ज़्यादा था इस बार. And in some of the questions, it required little bit in-depth analysis. Okay, so not knowing not just the topic is not sufficient. Of course, there are few questions where knowing the topic is sufficient. You know the topic, you will get the answer. There are few questions, but in many other questions, you have to know in-depth. Okay, detailed analysis मतलब in-depth detailed provision पता होना चाहिए. For example, Wildlife Protection Act, है ना? So you need to know specific provision, तभी आप कर सकते हैं. So like that. So this is overall analysis, and if you ask me what is the suggestion overall preparation कैसे होना चाहिए था इस पेपर के लिए, and of course for those who are watching this for next year, who is going to appear for next year, a simple suggestion: you need to prepare in a very comprehensive manner. Okay, gone are those days where you prepare section wise in a compartments. Okay, मैंने पॉलिटी कर लिया, ठीक है, मेजॉरिटी हो गया, एनवायरनमेंट कर लिया, हो गया, तो economics कर लिया तो हो गया. So there is no such compartmental preparation anymore. Everything is integrated and you have to go with comprehensive preparation. Right? So comprehensive preparation मतलब the entire UPSC General Studies paper 1 is one subject where there can be multiple interlinking and there is no specific areas where one area would end, another area would begin. For example, geography and IR. So many of the questions of IR are related to geography, right? So in fact, 1 or 2 questions of science and tech also can be related to geography, right? So there's too much of interlinking, and so once you start to see this general studies paper as a one whole comprehensive subject, then only you will get into that in-depth analysis and trying to connect different things and develop that interest in the subject. वो ज़रूरी है. You cannot prepare in a compartmental manner. Okay, polity एक book पढ़ लिया, polity खत्म है, ऐसे तो नहीं है. It's not about that. ठीक है? Second, you have to regularly read newspapers. Okay, that is must. So we have been telling, even in our current affairs classes also, we always tell the same. There is no alternative to newspaper. Even though our visionary is magazine, so we give out as a compilation. Okay, that is just for revision purpose. But on the first hand, you have to give a thorough reading of newspaper on daily basis. You have to see the topics from both prelims as well as mains perspective. Okay, both prelims as well as mains perspective. So there would be certain information which can be asked in prelims. There would be certain analysis which can be asked in mains. Overall, what is the topic? ऐसे आपको पढ़ना है. And you have to develop that gradual awareness about the current happenings. Whether you are able to make notes out of it or not, it's totally fine. For revision purpose, you can refer to the magazine, but you have to read the newspapers. नहीं, the thing is, it's not that the questions are directly taken from the newspaper. Okay, but if you were reading the newspaper, you would be aware of the many of the things जो otherwise नहीं होता है. Okay, some of the topics which are relevant, which has been asked, are inspired from the newspaper. वो पढ़ लिया तो newspaper से वो aware हो जाते हैं. Of course, उसके बाद में detail में पढ़ना है, वो अलग है. Questions are going to be a little bit detailed, but that will bring you some awareness. That will make you in touch with those topics which you otherwise miss. Right? So it's about developing that awareness of current events. For that, you need to read newspaper on regular basis. And third, most important, practice. Questions जितना हो सके उतना practice करना है. इससे क्या फायदा है? So when you attempt a question, when you try to eliminate the options, you think about those options in multiple different ways. And when you read an explanation, you also read the different other information related to that option. So बहुत बार क्वेश्चन से ये एक्सप्लेनेशन से क्वेश्चन निकलता है यूपीएससी से. So this practice of solving question will give you a lot of information and will also get you in habit of solving the question. Right? It is not just elimination. So that information, revision, recalling, है ना, बहुत सारे चीजें आते हैं इसमें while practicing the question. Fine. So practice is the most important thing. ये तो करना है. And without that you cannot go to the examination. Of course, there are few sections where the questions have been predictable. कुछ सेकंड्स तो था, है ना, देयर वर सर्टेन सेक्शंस वेयर द क्वेश्चंस हैव बीन प्रेडिक्टेबल. अगर अच्छा से वहां पर प्रैक्टिस कर लिया तो बहुत सारा निकल के आ जाता है. राइट? सो देयर यू डोंट हैव टू स्पेंड मच टाइम ओवर देयर. So this is the overall in general about general studies paper 1. So of course our faculties will take up the respective subject analysis in their sections. So I'll be talking about geography and environment. Let's begin with geography. Okay, so we have some graphs here. Let me just show this also. So overall, why we have chosen the difficulty level to be moderately difficult? Because we can see so nearly 30% of the questions are in the portion of easy. So easy का मतलब ये नहीं कि ऐसे क्वेश्चन देखते ही आंसर मिल जाएगा. So easy का मतलब ये नहीं कि क्वेश्चन देखते ही आंसर मिल जाएगा आपको. But with a proper preparation, you can easily get the answer here. There is not much tricks in the options. पढ़ लिया ये टॉपिक पढ़ लिया तो आंसर मिल जाता है. फॉर एग्जाम्पल मियावाकी मेथड हो गया, इट्स मेथड ऑफ फॉरेस्ट तो पता था. ओके, सो इवन बायो रॉक द कोरल रिस्टोरेशन के लिए क्वेश्चन देखते ही आंसर मिल जाएगा. सो लाइक दैट यू विल फाइंड नियरली 30% ऑफ द क्वेश्चंस which are in the easy level. So medium, there are around 42%. So where you have to prepare thoroughly and you will get the answer. Okay, thorough preparation से थोड़ा सा detail analysis से मिल जाएगा. And around 25 to 26% of the questions are difficult. Okay, difficult in the sense that so even with a thorough preparation you might find it difficult and you may make mistake here. So you have to answer very carefully. And this is the overall section. You can see section wise breakup of the paper. So one of the highest weightage you can observe environment, economics and current affairs. Current affairs of course it's there in all the sections, but purely current affairs we can say around 15 questions. And overall international relations, the number of questions have increased. Modern history, the number of questions have decreased. And science and technology as it is, polity governance as it is, and geography has seen number of questions in increase. Okay, rest I think it's all the same. So talking about the geography section, the syllabus mentions that it is Indian and world geography covering physical, social and economic geography of India and world. So basically it should cover the physical aspect, social aspect and economic aspects of geography. And that is the basic syllabus of geography. So but usually prelims area is majorly concentrated about the physical aspect and less number of questions in social aspect, right? So that too, this year, the number of questions are majorly concentrated towards locations, location based. There are a total of 11 questions in geography. Okay, there are a total of 11 questions in geography. Out of questions which are from the conceptual or conventional part. Four questions are conceptual or conventional part. Okay, मतलब you read proper geography, NCERT से पढ़ते हैं, GC से पढ़ते हैं, जो भी पढ़ते हैं. So with that you can answer this. So rest 7 questions are, sorry I think this is 12. एक current affairs भी include कर दो. There are total of 12 questions. Location based. And they are equally world geography as well as Indian geography. They are equally world as well as Indian locations. Okay, both the world locations and Indian locations are equally given importance here. For example, the questions related to the conventional aspects. We had a question on seasons. No, easy attempt. It was easy attempt. So question on the tea producing states, and a question on monocyte. So we covered in economic geography, right? And the clouds. The clouds, usually these are covered in the traditional part. And the questions in world geography, locations, we have many of these questions totally derived, inspired from the, except Afghanistan border, हमने class में भी cover किया था. है ना, अफगानिस्तान में होता था. But otherwise there are one or two locations which are climate related location. वो जो लेक था अफ्रीका में, right? Agree? So it was very difficult one, right? So overall you can see that there were more inclination towards the location and information type of questions, and that makes the entire section of geography difficult in nature, right? थोड़ा सा difficulty लगा होगा आपके लिए. And the sources for these, the conceptual conventional type, you could have read from NCERT or the basic sources. But for this, it is majorly Atlas and current affairs. The role of is too much, I can say. The locations which are majorly in news. But in addition to these 12 questions, I can take out at least 3 questions from IR, which you can solve using geography. One question on the boundaries of, one question on the borders of ocean, जहाँ से territorial sea exclusive economic zone हुआ था, है ना, that you can answer using geography. And another question on the Senkaku Islands. Okay, we have classified it in IR. Okay, because it's related to international relations. That you can easily cover using the map, है ना, and even the countries in news. Okay, different countries in news for what reason? So that also we could have easily covered using. Of geography has increased. So I'll give you detailed analysis about these geography sections. Overall कैसे था, इसमें और क्या करना है? So we'll talk about that in the end. Before that, we'll see the questions. So let's discuss the questions one by one, then we can come to the overall analysis of geography completely. So question number, particularly with respect to set C. Set E, C or A? Okay, so accordingly you can see the questions here. So in this question, which one of the following lakes of West Africa has become dry and turned into a desert? Lake Victoria, Lake Fagubine, Lake Oguta, Lake Volta. Okay. See, the question from Africa, and unless you know about this, you will not be able to get the answer. Lake Victoria to pata hai, most famous. This is the 3rd largest lake in the world. So ये dry होना तो मुश्किल है. तो ये eliminate कर दिया तो you are left with 3 options. It is difficult to eliminate among these 3. Actually, there was one UPSC question on the same lines. In 2018, this question was asked, which of the following lakes have dried up immensely due to the human activities? Aral Sea, Black Sea, Lake Baikal, and the answer was Aral Sea. 2018 में आया था. The same kind of question has been asked again, and this is the lake Fagubine. Okay, so this is a lake in Mali. Where is Mali? The northern Africa, Sahara. Okay, it's a proper Saharan country, and it is just towards the north of Niger River. You know Niger River? So in this part, you have this lake Fagubine, and this lake has started to dry up in 1970s. Okay, this is Niger River. So very near to Niger River. In fact, this was fed by the Niger River, the water channels from the Niger River. And during the rainfall, जब बहुत ज़्यादा बारिश होता तभी वो आ रहा था. So but due to the continuous deposition of sand, these water channels has been completely filled. There is no water movement from the Niger River into this lake, and this started to dry up in 1970. अभी तो पूरा almost dry up हो गया. So because of which it has created out migration of the people in the surrounding region. Okay, this is what is Lake Fagubine. So so whether it is an easy question or not, definitely not easy. So that's because this news was not there in Indian context, and of course level, but most of the Indian newspapers had not covered this. So that means your preparation should not be restricted to Indian newspapers alone. I'm not suggesting you to read any of the international newspapers, of course, but if there's any news related to the climate or extreme events which are happening, in this case very very rare such kind of event is happening, जैसे एक अरल सी हुआ था दूसरा ऐसे हो रहा है, in that case you have to keep your eyes and ears very open, है ना? So that is this case. So that's why we have totally difficult nature. So next one, Gandhikota Canyon of South India. So this is actually a news a question which is related to history also. It is related to history also. This Gandhikota is located on Penneru River, and this near to this Gandhikota there is also a fort which has been the center of battles for all the surrounding kingdoms during the medieval times. Okay, so Penneru River, of course, you might have heard. The thing is, they're trying rivers with various other aspects. Though usually hota hai, rivers are connected with national park. Last year, Kaveri Basin mein question aaya tha. So rivers are also connected with some of the important cities and the mountains and all. So you need to interlink the rivers. Indian rivers, you have to read them in detail. Okay, that is not sufficient even if you're just remembering the origin and the tributaries. You have to go in little bit more detail. Okay, so this is the best example. But still, this is one of the very beautiful canyon. It is also called as the Grand Canyon of India. Fine. So this kind of questions definitely should be covered in your mapping part. No, but that is not Gandhikota. Yes, yes. Kaveri River also makes canyon, and that is near to Hogenakal. Okay, but Gandhikota is on this Penneru River. It's in Andhra Pradesh near to Kadapa. Okay, so rivers related question, river related जो भी aspect होता है थोड़ा सा और. The next question, the peaks and mountains. This is a easy question, of course, है ना, जो normal mapping से ही हो जाते हैं. Usually Namcha Barwa you can easily mark. Himalayas are said to be from Namcha Parvat to Nanga Parvat. Namcha Parvat in the easternmost extreme, Nanga Parvat in the westernmost extreme. So Namcha Parvat easternmost extreme है तो गढ़वाल कहाँ पर है? Where is गढ़वाल? Uttarakhand. Okay, so first option is wrong. So first of all, what is the difference between Uttarakhand region is divided into two parts. The eastern part is Kumaon and the western part is Garhwal. Okay, eastern part में है जो हमारा नैनीताल and all these, है ना, including Nanda Devi. So that is Kumaon. Garhwal is in the western part. So Nanda Devi, it's in Kumaon, right? The important peak, Nanda Devi Biosphere Reserve bhi hai. And No Creek, where is No Creek? Meghalaya. No Creek is part of Garo Hills, not Sikkim Himalayas. Okay, third one is also wrong. The answer is B2 only. Garhwal is just the region. Is just the region. Okay, the western region is called as Garhwal and eastern region is Kumaon. It's part of Uttarakhand. Okay, I guess this is the easy question. Fine. Overall, you can agree. Normal mapping से ही solve हो जाता है. So this is again a Levant. I'm sure many of you might have read about Levant, which is a local wind, है ना? But Levant is also the region referring to Eastern Mediterranean region. Okay, the countries of Syria, Lebanon, Israel, Palestine, Jordan, all this region, we call it as Levant. The thing is, this is a term not commonly used. You won't find it in Atlas. Fine. That makes this question little bit difficult. Okay, it makes this question little bit difficult. Fine. So of course ये जो places in news है उसमें तो हम इतना detail में जाके देखना बहुत मुश्किल है कि पूरा क्या बोलते हैं एंड ऑल. वेस्ट एशिया तो वैसे ही न्यूज़ में ही था, राइट. So but overall it gives us a hint that we need a little bit seriously, which is usually neglected, right? So here the answer is region along the eastern Mediterranean shores. Question number 27. Consider the following countries. ये तो easy था. This is part of traditional mapping part. हमने क्लास में ही करवाया था इसका, right? So where do we have this? This is all Central Asia. So here we have Afghanistan. We're talking about Afghanistan. Afghanistan makes border with Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan and Tajikistan only. So it has no border with Kyrgyzstan, which, right? And where is Azerbaijan? This is Azerbaijan on the other side of Caspian. So ये तो बहुत दूर है, right? Afghanistan has border towards Pakistan, Iran as well as India through Wakhan corridor, right? So only these three countries of Central Asia. कौन कौन सा? Turkmenistan and then Uzbekistan and Tajikistan. So the answer here is Azerbaijan नहीं है, Kyrgyzstan नहीं है. Answer should be C, 3, 4 and 5 only. It's an easy question. We can say easy question. Provided you have done world mapping. है ना, provided you have done world mapping, and world mapping में there are some regions which are very very important. Southeast Asia, West Asia, Central Asia, Central America. इतना तो करना ही है, इतना तो कर लिया तो मिल जाता है, right? It's part of traditional mapping, that's why we can mark it as easy. Monazite. Monazite, you might have heard that monazite is a sand. Okay, it's basically deposition which is found along the coastal regions, and this sand is a mixture of all the different types of elements, including rare earth elements and most importantly thorium. India contains world's largest thorium deposits and all of them are in monazite sands only. आपको सुना होगा, right? So from this we can extract monazite and we can also extract various different rare earth elements. Rare earth elements are used in high-end technologies, right? So presently the largest supplier is China and India is partnering with Japan to produce this rare earth elements in India. Fine, that is monazite sand. So coming to the question, monazite is a source of rare earth elements, so contain thorium. The third statement, monazite occurs naturally in the entire Indian coastal sands. ये थोड़ा सा doubtful है. In India, government bodies only can process or export monazite. That is right, because it is a very strategic mineral and there is a restriction that not everybody can extract this. Okay, there is a body called as Indian Rare Earth Limited. Indian Rare Earth Limited under of Atomic Energy. Under the Department of Atomic Energy. Only this body can extract this and use this or process it or export it. Okay, that is fourth one is right. Now come to the third part. Monazite occurs naturally in entire Indian coastal sands in India. So if you go with the earlier method of UPSC, extreme statements आ जाते, usually गलत होने का chances है. तो this is the key here. This is one of the few questions जो आप eliminate कर सकता था, है ना? So when you going by the entire Indian coast, कुछ तो गड़बड़ था. So if you had seen, so even if you had not studied about this, ठीक है? So थोड़ा सा सोचो. Indian coastline is of two types. One is on the eastern coast, it is emergent in nature. On the western coast, it is submergent in nature. Submergent क्यों है? Emergent क्यों है? ज़्यादा deposition है. The entire eastern coast is emergent in nature. Along the western coast, Kerala is emergent in nature. There is a deposition over there. So other than these parts, no other states has monosite sand. है ना? So majorly in Kerala, Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh, Odisha and West Bengal. So not all the coasts. So the entire Indian coastline बोलना गलत हो जाते. Answer B. ठीक है? So it is difficult to say entire Indian coast. So this is also the overall presence, overall reserves of monosite, and as against the popular belief, Kerala से ज़्यादा, in fact आंध्र प्रदेश में सबसे ज़्यादा monosite sand है. Okay, Andhra Pradesh has the highest, and then comes Tamil Nadu, and then Odisha, and Bengal, and finally some part in Jharkhand along the riverine regions. ठीक है? Question number 29. In the northern hemisphere, the longest day of the year normally occurs, and this is almost repetitive of what was asked in 2019, right? So हम तो क्लास में डिस्कस किया था इसका. So on 21st June को क्या था ऑप्शन? The sun does not set below the horizon at Arctic Circle, right? So it was based on a simple topic of season, so which has been asked multiple times in UPSC. What about this? The northern hemisphere, in the northern hemisphere, the longest day of the year normally occurs first half of the month of June, second half of the month of June, first of the month of July, second of the month of July. कब होगा? 21st of June, 21st of the month of June. Simple है. You should just know about the concept of summer solstice, and you should just remember the overall dates. ठीक है? So why we have the longest day? Because on 21st of June, the entire Earth's position is totally tilted towards the sun, and the entire northern hemisphere experiences the longest day because the overall tilt is maximum and the entire portion gets maximum sunlight. So that is what we call it as the longest day. Okay? Question number 30. So this is a question I would say which can be covered both in environment as well as geography. So but geography में इसमें रखा कि क्योंकि these are the older Ramsar sites. Okay, पुराना Ramsar sites, which we can consider as a traditional part. You have to study more about them in detail, but older Ramsar sites you just have to know the location. Location पता है तो easily answer हो जाएगा. These are the very famous lakes. कहाँ पर है होकेरा wetland? Where is it? It's in Jammu Kashmir. Renuka wetland. It's in Himachal Pradesh. Rudrasagar, Tripura. Sastamkotta Lake, it's not in Tamil Nadu, it's in Kerala. Answer is only 2. ये तो खतरनाक टाइप ऑप्शन है. सो पूरा पता होना चाहिए तब भी आंसर कर सकते हैं, राइट? So such kind of locations, it's better to do it with mapping, and that is also the easier way of remembering these locations. Question number 62. Consider the following states: Andhra Pradesh, Kerala, Himachal Pradesh, Tripura. How many of the above states are generally known as tea producing state? So now this statement generally known as है ना, वहां पर थोड़ा सा tricky है. Because if you ask me, there is also some tree producing areas in Andhra Pradesh. There are some tree producing areas in Andhra Pradesh. The coffee. एक जगह में coffee मिलता है, Araku coffee you might have heard, है ना? But that does not make Andhra Pradesh as the tea producing state. Generally called as, there are few states which are called as tea producing state, or few states which are called as coffee producing state. So that is in terms of overall proportion. So what are the tea producing states then? In the south we have Karnataka, Kerala. These are the three major tea producing states. What are the conditions required for growing tea? It requires a good precipitation above 150 centimeters, but the temperature is not too hot. Coffee requires little bit higher temperature, but tea requires little bit lower temperature. So even in Western Ghats also, coffee is grown in the little bit lower, higher elevation, because it requires little bit colder conditions. However, in the northern parts, we have enough cold conditions, It is grown in West Bengal near to Darjeeling. Majorly Darjeeling थी, सबको पता है. Other than this, Assam, the entire Assam Dwar regions. So other than West Bengal and Assam, in many other parts of Northeast, it is grown. That includes, you can see here, Tripura, Arunachal, Sikkim, Manipur, Nagaland. There are some regions where tea is grown. Combined together, we call them, all of them are tea producing states. Yes, they are tea producing states. In the north, we have majorly in Himachal and some parts of Uttarakhand. Himachal, Kangra mein, very famous tea. Is known for tea cultivation. That's why Himachal is also called as tea producing state, but not Andhra Pradesh. Fine. So going with this, Andhra Pradesh is not Kerala, Himachal, Tripura, only 3 states. So if you know the conditions required for growing tea, still it is difficult to eliminate. It is still difficult to eliminate. You should know exactly. That makes this question difficult. Again, river based. One more question here. This time it is based on reservoirs. Different types of reservoirs. So Ghataprabha reservoir. Ghataprabha is a tributary of Krishna. Ghataprabha, Malaprabha. Right? So that's a tributary of Krishna in Karnataka. Okay, this is Krishna coming from Mahabaleshwar. And one of the earliest tributaries, Koyna. Then comes 2 important tributary. One is Ghataprabha, another one is Malaprabha. So Ghataprabha coming from this northern part, and here there is a dam near to Belgaum. Belgaum of northern Karnataka. Okay, you don't have to know about this much of detail. Even if you know Ghataprabha is a tributary of Krishna, ye kafi tha. And it's a tributary of Krishna which joins Krishna within Karnataka only. Andhra Pradesh jana mushkil tha. Andhra Pradesh or Telangana. Okay, so there you could have easily eliminated this. So there are no tributaries of Krishna in the name of Telangana. There is a tributary of Krishna. Ghataprabha joins Krishna in Karnataka itself, and there is this dam, and the dam's name is Hidkal Dam. It's called as Hidkal Dam. ठीक है. Second, गांधी सागर. गांधी सागर कहां पर है? This is Gandhi Sagar. And it's in Madhya Pradesh. On which river? Chambal River. Chambal River coming from Madhya Pradesh. And here there is a dam just before it enters Rajasthan. Okay, that is what is Gandhi Sagar. And the third one, Indra Sagar. And fourth one is Methane. Indra Sagar to famous hai. Why Indra Sagar is famous? It is the largest reservoir of India. That's in Madhya Pradesh on Narmada River. Indra Sagar is in Madhya Pradesh on Narmada River. It's not. What about Methane? Methane is in Jharkhand. It's on a river called as Barakar. So why it is important? It is historically was earlier called as the Sorrow of Bengal. It was earlier called as Sorrow of Bengal. Then later we started this Damodar Valley Corporation, through which we constructed 4 dams on Damodar as well as on the tributaries of Damodar. So this is one of that dam, which was constructed in the second 5-year plan. Okay, that is the very famous Damodar Valley Corporation. Fine. So Ghataprabha is wrong, Telangana mein nahi hai. Gandhi Sagar is right, Indira Sagar is wrong, Methane is wrong. It's not in Chhattisgarh, it's in Jharkhand. Now comes the tricky part. Many of you might not have observed this knot. Right? Many of you might not have observed this knot and you would have made a mistake here. So, iska answer, if at all this knot is not given, it would be 1 pair only. If it is given, it should be 3 pairs. This is one of the very tricky part. You don't read the question carefully. Mistake here. 3 pairs are incorrectly matched. 3 pairs are incorrectly matched. Question number 81. Again, even though this is conceptual, it is little bit tricky. Thoda sa tricky hai. You need more clarity in the subject, then only you will be able to answer this. So you have studied that clouds reflect the light, the incoming light ko reflect kar leta hai, and clouds also observe radiation. Now comes the tricky part, which clouds reflect the radiation and which cloud observe the radiation. Thoda sa in depth hai. You need to understand in in-depth manner, then only you will be able to get the answer. So first of all, let's say these are the clouds and near to the surface. If this is near to the surface, the clouds near to the surface, they are low-lying clouds. For example, stratonimbus or altus, stratonimbus or strato, or just stratus or nimbus. All of these are low-lying clouds. High clouds, कौन सा हो सकता है? Cirrus, cirrocumulus, cirrostratus. Fine. What is the characteristic of high clouds, high altitude clouds? They are very thin and they are very light. They are very thin and light. Usually feathery like appearance, right? So these are near to the ground. Usually they are thick. The thin clouds will not be able to reflect the incoming light. The incoming light is high radiation, high energy radiation, high frequency रहता है, short wave होता है. So that will easily pass through this. It will easily pass through this because it is thin cloud. However, it will not be able to pass through the thick clouds, which will get reflected easily. Fine. And the outgoing radiation, there is huge quantity of outgoing radiation. Of course, some part of it is reflected back here, but majority of it is reflected back by the thin clouds. Okay, majority of them are reflected back by the thin clouds. It is not the clouds which are very near to the ground. So that makes both the options wrong. Both are incorrect. The option says high clouds primarily reflect solar radiation and cool the surface of Earth. No. High clouds usually are involved in heating up of the surface. They are involved in heating up of the surface. Second one, low clouds have high absorption of infrared radiation. It is not the low clouds which are high clouds. High clouds have the high quantity of heating. Okay, they are able to absorb and keep the entire lower layers hot. थोड़ा सा in depth है, that makes the question difficult. ठीक है? Answer is D. This is again a difficult question because you would know about Anatolia, you would know about Catalonia. The other two, if you don't know about it, you cannot take a guess. है ना? So let's say you know about Anatolia. Anatolia तो टर्की में है, Catalonia इटली में नहीं है. Catalonia के बारे में UPSC में क्वेश्चन आया था ना? So there was a question 2 years before. the regions in news and the country. Catalonia was actually had opted for referendum. अभी भी उसका issue चल ही रहा है. They want independence. It's a region near to the northern part of Spain, near to Andorra. ठीक है? Anatolia is the plateau, Anatolia plateau of Turkey. Okay, this is Anatolia plateau. Fine. So let's say you know about these two. Anatolia सही है, Catalonia गलत है. So you are left with one pair only, two pair only, three pair only. बस यही eliminate हुआ है. Right? So you should know specifically about the other two, then only you will be able to answer this. In that first one, Amara was part of Ethiopia, that is right. Ethiopia, near to Lake Tana region, there were local conflicts going on, that's why it was in news, Amara. Cabo Delgado, okay, let me just show it on the board once so that yaad rahe. This region towards the northern part where we have Lake Tana, this region is called as Amara. Okay, there were local conflict going on, that's why it was in news. Then we have Cabo Delgado. Mozambique. The northern part of Mozambique. So this was also in news due to recent local conflict involving extremists. Okay, this is a typical question of geography where earlier they had asked the regions in news. You just have to remember the region, not the reason behind that. ठीक है? Simple region काफी था, but what makes this question difficult is the options which you cannot eliminate. Right? So these are the questions from geography. So other than this, there is also one question on solar flares, which will be discussed in science and technology. But here, if you know about tsunami generation, tsunami wala option eliminate kar diya to answer mil jayega. Okay, that is also, I would say, it's related to geography, and the maritime boundaries related to geography, and even Senkaku Islands covered in IR, and एक और क्वेश्चन है कंट्रीज एंड द रीजन फॉर इट टू बी इन न्यूज, वो भी IR में है. सो आई थिंक दीज आर द ओवरऑल थिंग्स, ओवरऑल क्वेश्चंस रिलेटेड टू जियोग्राफी. सो व्हाट इज द फाइनल एनालिसिस? द फाइनल एनालिसिस इज दैट द एंटायर सेक्शन ऑफ geography as a whole, if you see, total 12 questions, and few of the questions related to geography. Overall, if you say, this is a difficult section. For a long time, we have been complaining that number of questions in geography has decreased. Finally, UPSC increases, and still we are complaining. Right? So that is how UPSC works. So overall number of questions in geography, even though it has increased, but the focus has been majorly towards locations and facts. Fine. So should we neglect the traditional parts? Definitely not. That's because it's just a phase, and geography, the traditional part of geography, has always been constant. And the thing is, traditional part of geography में आप अच्छे से पढ़ लिया तो score कर सकते हो, आराम से score कर सकते हो. And more than prelims part means the largest section, which is a must. You cannot neglect the traditional part of geography. So what I would suggest, along with traditional part of geography, please give more concentration to mapping part. Okay, mapping should not be done as some extra activity end में कर लेते हैं, ये सब थोड़ा सा कम करना है. You need to do mapping on daily basis. Whatever the location you see in news, please try to locate on the map and make a note of this simple information why it is in news. इतना काफी है. Okay, even if you know why it is in news, in which location, ये almost cover हो जाते हैं. Nobody is asking very in detail question here. For that you just need a simple atlas and a newspaper. जो daily newspaper आप पढ़ते हो वो काफ़ी है. Along with that, try to read current affairs में जो भी मिल जाता है, that is sufficient. So, so what are the traditional sources, overall sources considering this year's paper? NCRTs, GC Leong, and any of your class notes, whatever, wherever you have read, that is sufficient. In addition to that, please keep atlas and current locations. That is a must. You cannot give a miss. That is a clear indication here. In addition to all of this, one important source which all of you should have is curiosity. Curiosity for seeing the places, curiosity to know what is special about a particular place, where exactly it is located. एक बार atlas खोल के देख लिया तो याद हो जाता है ना? So with that mindset, definitely geography can be approachable. Okay, but still it is difficult this year. Let's hope that it would be easier in the coming days. So let's start with the next section, environment. Let me just show the syllabus of environment first. There is very interesting thing about environment syllabus, where UPSC specifically says that you don't require any kind of subject specialization, right? So, but this is considering that we read about environment and ecology very religiously, very with interest, जो हम नहीं करते है ना? So that's why, of course, it requires some specialization, some knowledge specifically based on the current trend also. But overall, the topics are restricted to environment, ecology, biodiversity, and climate change. Overall, the topics are restricted here itself. The number of questions in environment, there are a total of 19 questions, which makes one of the largest. These 19 questions include the questions of current affairs. The current affairs questions also. So usually environment has nearly 50% of the questions are static based, 50% of the questions are current based. But this year, the more orientation is towards current affairs. The traditional areas are still less. Okay, earlier we have seen many of the earlier years, there have been good number of questions from the traditional area, but this area, there are few questions which are traditionally asked, जैसे कि Wildlife Protection Act, उसका provision, basic provision तो पता था, है ना, थोड़ा सा in depth में जाना था, but still this is one of the question from traditional areas. And even the concept of wetland. Okay, if you know the concept of wetland, you could have answered that question, right? There are certain questions from traditional area, but more questions from current affairs areas. Current affairs areas may be particularly the issues, environmental issues which are in news, that was given priority. Okay, for example, methane and nitrous oxide, है ना? So उसके ऊपर previous भी question आया था, इस बार भी आया है majorly. Fine. And we also have this WHO air quality which was in news, mains में question आया था, prelims में आ गया. This is for the first time ऐसे हुआ है. Fine. And even on the PET bottles, acid rain, these are all current related issues. And the focus has been on current related issues. In addition to this, we have also seen some of the questions on climate change, which is as usual UPSC का favorite area है. Climate change के ऊपर 2-3 questions है. Fine. And in addition to this, there were few questions which are easier in environment, which were in news. If you know about the news, you could have easily answered this. For example, Miyawaki forest हो गया, Bio Rock हो गया, and even the Gushi Marshar ho gaya. Very good. Okay, so all of this. If you know about the news, you could have easily answered them. Right? So simple news would have been sufficient. That is one section. Other than this, many of our traditional areas are totally neglected. Okay, for example, protected areas, national parks, wildlife sanctuaries, threatened species, the status of threatened species. I'm sure many of you would have spent a lot of time in that. It's a sad that UPSC did not ask about that. Okay? But still, environment is one of the very diverse area. It is difficult to pinpoint to a particular area. कुछ areas में questions आते हैं, कुछ areas में question नहीं आते हैं. And this year they are totally neglected. Okay? So this is overall about the overview of environmental section. Let's go through the section and then we'll finally do the analysis. First one. Among the following crops, which one is the most important anthropogenic source of both methane and nitrous oxide? both methane and nitrous oxide. So if any of you have gone through the previous paper, there was one question in 2019. मीथेन के बारे में क्वेश्चन आया था, अबाउट द सोर्सेस ऑफ एमिशन ऑफ मीथेन. मीथेन कहाँ से निकलता है? मीथेन तो इस साल COP26 में भी बात हुआ था. There was a specific agreement on methane. Of course, India did not participate in that. So methane has been in news. Why? Because methane is a short-lived greenhouse gas. Okay, it will live there for 10 to 20 years. And if we target that, we can achieve the result very early. And we can reduce the global warming faster if you target and reduce the methane. इसलिए methane news में था. So again, we have a question on methane as well as nitrous oxide. So the answer is rice. So methane तो पता है, because for the cultivation of paddy we use stagnant water, and when the stagnant water is used and along the roots there is some kind of decomposition happens and that releases methane. In the same way, the excessive use of fertilizers and some of the natural bacteria near to the roots also produces nitrogen, and that nitrogen is released into the Earth's atmosphere as nitrous oxide. So paddy is also the source of nitrous oxide, both methane as well as nitrous oxide. Okay, so considering that methane was in news, easily could have guessed, at least थोड़ा सा तो prepare होना चाहिए था, basic major pollutants कहाँ से निकलते हैं. So considering that, this is a moderate question and a traditional area, not totally, मतलब current affairs से current news पता है तब भी आंसर कर सकते हैं, ऐसे ज़रूरी नहीं है. Even if you're reading about the basic the major pollutants and the sources जो आपका traditional standard material में मिल जाते हैं, वहाँ से भी आंसर निकाल सकते हैं. The answer is rice paddy cultivation. Anthropogenic source? Yes, rice cultivation basically. Rice cultivation is anthropogenic activity, right? Because there are other natural sources of methane. Other natural. Overall, the question is about anthropogenic source only. In that, which one? That was the question. 22, system of rice intensification. ये भी काफी न्यूज में था, system of rice intensification, and particularly it was in news for this year in the context of lockdown. In Punjab, for growing paddy, they majorly use flood irrigation method, which consumes a lot of water, but it reduces weed. Okay, overall weed is decreased. That is why they use the flood irrigation method, right? However, the system of rice intensification is a method which uses less water, less seeds, less power, and requires less labor. But it is a very specific method. You have to do that practice in a very specific method. This method was earlier developed in Madagascar, now used in different parts of the world. बहुत जगह में use करते हैं. ठीक है? So that is what is system of rice intensification. It reduces your overall water requirement, seed requirement, power requirement. About, of course, water requirement इसलिए कम होता है कि you don't have to give stagnant water. Normal paddy cultivation uses stagnant water for the standing crop, right? So here they don't use that. So जितना पानी कम होगा, power requirement भी कम होगा, right? So overall seed requirement is also less. It is said that in the method of system of rice intensification, it takes only 2 kg per acre, whereas normally it takes 5 kgs of seeds per acre. ठीक है? So that's why the answer is 1, 2 and 3. Here it is this specific method. This method is called a system of rice intensification. It's a method of cultivation of rice with less water than the normal traditional method of rice cultivation. Traditional method is used everywhere. Here it is used in very less regions. Recently Punjab mein, in many of the regions they adapted this due to the shortage of labor during the lockdown. Due to the shortage of labor during the lockdown, they adapted this method. That's why it was in news. It is also in practice in many different parts of India, but not widely used. Again, this is something which has developed in the recent times. See, the overall the system of rice intensification involves the normal method involves they use the seeds in a nursery and there they grow the plants and then they will transplant to the field in a standing water. Here they do the direct sowing. Okay, overall seed requirement is lesser here. Question number 41. So these two question number 41, 42, थोड़ा सा difficult level में है. Both are related to climate, and the thing is both the questions were not a major topics of climate change. जितना हमने predict किया था, because there have been many different events or initiatives in the context of climate change. ये थोड़ा सा peripheral areas में था, but फिर भी question आया. That makes both these question number 41 and 42 difficult. Question number 41. But if you have read about this, you could have answered. Okay, the climate action tracker, you just read about this, ये क्या है उससे basically निकल जाता है. It monitors the emission reduction pledges of different countries. It is a database created by coalition of research organization. Simple है. Okay, database created by coalition of research organization. So basically there are certain independent scientific research organization, they're tracking the overall emissions of different countries, which accounts for nearly 85% of the world's global emissions. They have been doing since long back, and after the agreement of Paris agreement के बाद में, this has been used to see which country has been doing how much of efforts in order to achieve the targets of Paris agreement. Okay, this gives out the overall emissions of different countries, which covers nearly totally 85% of the world's global emissions. And this is totally independent organizations. Okay? So the answer is ये. I told you, if you don't know about this, you will not be able to get this. यहाँ पर तो guess मारने का option बिल्कुल कम है. You cannot take a guess here. Question number 42. Climate group. So climate group is basically, it is an international non-profit organization that drives the climate action by building larger network and runs them. So it is not an initiative of any of these international organization as it is given in International Energy Agency. ये तो involved है ही नहीं है. It is totally non-government and coalition of private organizations also. Private companies are also involved here. Basically they are motivating the private companies to participate and contribute at the global level. India में बहुत सारा companies इसके लिए pledge किया है, including Mahindra. Okay, many of the companies have recently pledged their support to this, saying that they will work towards energy efficiency. Okay, that is why the second statement is wrong. This EP100 is the initiative of the same climate group, but it is not an initiative of International Energy Agency. So अगर यहाँ से ये गया तो ये भी गया, fifth one भी गया. International Energy Agency is not the secretariat. If you eliminate this, you eliminate this also. So answer is 1, 3 and 4. क्योंकि 2 and 5 इसी में ही नहीं है. What about the third and fourth statement? EP100 brings together leading companies committed to driving innovation in energy efficiency and increasing competitiveness while delivering emission reduction goals. This is the overall idea of EP100. Fine. And some Indian companies are members of this. मैंने बताया था. Right? So of course, this you should know specifically, तब भी answer कर सकता है. And this is also one of the rare question जहाँ पर 5 statement दे दिया है. Usually इतना तो 5 statement नहीं देता है UPSC. कुछ साल पहले 1-2 क्वेश्चन आया था, अभी तो यूजुअली नहीं होता है, बट स्टिल दिस मेक्स द एलिमिनेशन ईजियर, राइट? क्वेश्चन नंबर 43. Wetlands. The concept of wetland, if you have the fair idea of concept of wetlands, you can answer this. If rainforests and tropical forests are lungs of earth, then surely wetlands function as kidneys, Which one of the following function of wetlands best reflects the above statement? Either you should know about the function of wetland or you should know about the function of kidney. दोनों से भी आंसर निकाल सकते हैं. What does kidney do? Filtering. जो impurities है वो सारा filter करके निकालते हैं. That is, aquatic plants absorb the heavy metals and excess nutrients. Right? So the other options are wrong. Water cycle in wetland involves the surface runoff, subsulfur percolation, evaporation. इससे तो overall kidney function तो नहीं बता सकते हैं. Algae form the nutrient base upon which fish, crustacean, ये सब तो ठीक है. Wetlands play a vital role in maintaining sedimentation, balance and soil sublimation. Overall तो ठीक है, but the function of filtering out, that is mentioned in option D. So you might see the other statements are also right. है ना, देख सकते हैं अदर स्टेटमेंट भी सही हो सकता है, बट दैट इज वेयर द ट्रैप लाइज. स्टेटमेंट देख के हाँ ये सही है, दिस इज अबाउट द वेटलैंड, ये सही है, मार्क कर दिया तो गलत हो जाता है, क्योंकि दे आर स्पेसिफिकली आस्किंग अबाउट ए फंक्शन दैट इज फिल्टरिंग, है ना, दैट इज ऑप्शन डी. So we all know about the wetlands. Wetlands are the intermediate ecosystem in between the terrestrial as well as the aquatic. So it acts as a transition zone between them. And in this transition zone, usually water remains stagnant and there is no more vegetation, biomass. And through this process, the water filters out, recycles, the nutrient recycling happens over there. है ना? Question number 44. ये तो मैंने already बता दिया. जैसे पहली बार यूजुअली इतना तो नहीं होता है कि पिछले मेंस में पूछ लिया फिर दोबारा नेक्स्ट प्रीलिम्स में आ गया. सो मेंस में क्वेश्चन आया था, कौन सा क्वेश्चन था? This was the question asked in mains. So this was the question asked in mains, the recent main 2021. And it was also continuously in news. Overall there was a change in the parameters, the overall air quality के लिए जितना WHO standards है वो increase किया था. And the thing is, India was yet to fulfill these parameters itself. And now we have been given the next parameters. We are yet to fulfill these parameters only. हमारा most of the cities are not fulfilling these parameters itself. So that's why it was in news. So what are the statements? अगर ये क्वेश्चन देख के कुछ लोग डर गया होगा, पता नहीं है, चलो छोड़ के आ जाओ, ऐसे हो गया तो definitely that is a mistake. Because other than the first statement, other statements you could have easily answered without even knowing the guidelines. पहले फर्स्ट स्टेटमेंट देखो, द 24-hour मीन ऑफ PM 2.5 शुड नॉट एक्सीड 15 माइक्रोग्राम पर मीटर क्यूब एंड द एनुअल मीन ऑफ PM 2.5 शुड नॉट एक्सीड 5 माइक्रोग्राम पर मीटर क्यूब. ये तो पूरा इससे डायरेक्ट है. द एनुअल मीन इज 5 एंड द 24-hour मीन इज 15. ठीक है, थोड़ा बहुत फैक्ट चल है डायरेक्टली फ्रॉम द गाइडलाइंस. व्हाट अबाउट द अदर स्टेटमेंट्स? In a year, highest level of ozone pollution occurs during the period of inclement weather. What do you mean by inclement weather? Harsh weather. Okay, that is cold conditions, winter conditions. And ozone pollution majorly happens in summer because it requires sunlight. It requires sunlight. Okay, so that makes this statement wrong. You don't have to know the WHO guidelines directly. PM10 can penetrate the lung barrier and enter the bloodstream. ये भी गलत है. See, PM10, PM 2.5, two particulate matter which are considered to be highly polluting. PM10 is larger diameter, PM 2.5 smaller diameter. PM10 can penetrate the lungs and it will accumulate in the lungs, but it will not penetrate into the blood. That is done by PM 2.5. That is why PM 2.5 is considered to be more dangerous. Third one is wrong. So second is wrong, third is wrong. इसी से आंसर निकल जाएगा, राइट? एक्सेसिव ओजोन इन द एयर कैन ट्रिगर आस्थमा, ये तो सही है. ओजोन पोल्यूशन कॉजेस वेरियस रेस्पिरेटरी डिसीजेस, ब्रोंकाइटिस इंक्लूडिंग आस्थमा, राइट? द फर्स्ट वन इज राइट, आंसर इज बी. So again, you need calm mind to think. थोड़ा सा in a calm mind without getting disturbed by the paper. You should, if you think, हो सकता है, मिल जाएगा, बीच में कुछ क्वेश्चन मिल जाएगा. That is what you have to practice here. ठीक है? So finally Gucci. So this is our mushroom, very famous. So it was in news. इसलिए था बहुत सारा सेलिब्रिटीज इसको खा रहे थे एंड दिस इज कंसिडर्ड टू बी वन ऑफ द वेरी कॉस्टली मशरूम एंड इट इज ऑल्सो कंसिडर्ड टू बी वेरी टेस्टी मशरूम, इसलिए न्यूज़ में था. सो इफ यू न्यू अबाउट दिस, ओवरऑल हिमालयाज में आते हैं, पर्टिकुलरली कश्मीर का गुची इज वेरी फेमस. कश्मीर है ना, इतना तो अगर पता है तो यू कुड हैव इजीली आंसर दिस. इट्स अ फंगस, इज दैट राइट? यस, ऑल मशरूम्स आर फंगस, राइट? इट ग्रोज इन सम हिमालयन फॉरेस्ट एरियाज. ठीक है, ऐसे जनरल स्टेटमेंट है, सम हिमालयन फॉरेस्ट एरिया. ठीक है. द थर्ड वन इज एक्चुअली रॉन्ग. नॉर्थ ईस्ट इंडिया में नहीं है, इट्स एक्चुअली नॉर्थ वेस्ट इंडिया. कश्मीर का फेमस है ना. सो इट इज मेजरली टुवर्ड्स नॉर्थ वेस्ट इंडिया. सो दैट मेक्स द आंसर सी, 1 and 2 ओनली. पेट. सो पेट बॉटल्स तो आप लोगों ने देखा होगा, might have seen पेट, जो हार्ड बॉटल्स होता है ना, that is what is PET. It's plastic, right? It's called as polyethylene tetraphthalate, which is so widespread in our daily lives. Consider the following statements about it. Its fibers can be blended with wool and cotton fibers to reinforce their properties. Yes, it's possible. Because ये जो जैसे बनाते हैं ना, so they make in terms of plastic fibers and then they model it, then they give that shape of bottle. During that processing itself, you can club it with the other fibers and it is there in the market. The first one is right. Second one, the containers made of it can be used to store any alcoholic beverage. ये तो गलत है, alcoholic beverage छोड़ो, बाकी दूसरा any drinks, any food items, it is not suggested to store in long term. Plastic is considered to be hazardous. है ना, we cannot store any of these for long term. So alcohol तो और reactive है, it is not suggested at all. The second statement is wrong. Bottle made of it can be recycled into other products. ये तो सही है. See, PET bottles are little bit thicker. उसका plastic मोटा रहता है rather than thin single-use plastic which is difficult to recycle. This can be recycled. Articles made of it can be easily disposed of by incineration without causing greenhouse gas emission. ये तो मुश्किल है. So plastic is considered one of the most damaging destructive इसलिए कि it produces lot of greenhouse gas if you burn it. And not only during the disposal, even during the manufacturing also it results in lot of greenhouse gas. बहुत सारा greenhouse gas manufacturing process में ही निकलता है, right? So that's why the fourth statement is wrong. Answer is 1 and 3, right? So यहाँ तक थोड़ा बहुत moderate and difficult questions था. आगे easy questions है, देखो. This is of course one of the easy. माशिर तो यूपीएससी भी पूछा है एक बार, ब्लू फिन माशिर कावेरी में मिलता है नहीं मिलता, इतना डिटेल में आ गया. नाउ सडनली इट्स अ सिंपल क्वेश्चन. वी हैव स्टडीड इन डिटेल अबाउट डिफरेंट टाइप्स ऑफ माशिर विद देयर क्रिटिकल स्टेटस, आईयूसीएन स्टेटस भी पढ़ा था. सो माशिर एलिमिनेट कर दो, यू विल गेट द आंसर. माशिर, गोल्डन माशिर कहाँ पर मिलता है बताइए? हिमालयस, राइट? ब्लू फिन माशिर कावेरी, राइट? सो बाकी सारा तो बर्ड्स है, अगर ये पता भी नहीं है तो फिर भी आंसर मिल जाएगा. इट्स ए इजी क्वेश्चन. सो दिस वाज द अर्लियर क्वेश्चन आस्क्ड 2019 में जो क्वेश्चन आया था. ये भी थोड़ा सा ट्रिकी लगता है बट यू कैन एलिमिनेट एंड गेट द आंसर हियर. एलिमिनेशन से मिल जाता है. दिस इज ऑल्सो वन ऑफ द फ्यू क्वेश्चन जहां पर एलिमिनेशन पॉसिबल था. अल्फा अल्फा, वेयर हैव यू हर्ड अबाउट अल्फा अल्फा? द टेम्परेट ग्रासलैंड्स, grasses which are used for cattle feeding, and if they are used for cattle feeding they are very nutritious. Of course they are nitrogen fixation. हाँ, बहुत लोगों ने ये फर्स्ट ऑप्शन नहीं एलिमिनेट किया है बट थोड़ा सा ये तो गलत है. चलो, मोस्ट कॉमन कौन सा है? चिकपी. व्हाट इज चिकपी? चना. चना इज लेग्यूमिनस, ये तो नाइट्रोजिनस है. सो यू आर लेफ्ट विथ ओनली A and B, right? Even if you get chickpea right, ये दोनों गलत है. सो इससे तो वन कॉमन है, होना ही चाहिए, राइट. चिकपी इज द चना, चना इज लेग्यूमिनस, राइट, पल्स है, ऑफ कोर्स. सो यू आर लेफ्ट विथ 1, 3, 4, 1, 3, 5 एंड 6. फोर्थ वन देखो, क्लोवर. व्हाट इज क्लोवर? 3 पत्ते वाला होता है ना, इट्स मोस्ट कॉमन. दिस क्लोवर, दिस इज नाइट्रोजन फिक्सेशन, बहुत कॉमन है ना, बहुत कॉमन है इन टर्म्स ऑफ ग्रासलैंड, जहां पर ग्रासेस रहता है, यू विल फाइंड देम मोस्ट कॉमनली. दिस इज केपेबल ऑफ नाइट्रोजन फिक्सेशन. सो आंसर इज ये. Bio-rock technology. So basically bio-rock technology is a technology used to restore the corals. So in those regions wherever the corals have undergone degradation, damaging, bleaching, है ना? So in order to strengthen the restoration, we provide some kind of support, and that is this kind of frame, okay, in terms of manufactured rock kind of structure which we put them, which will help in the generation of limestone. Lime secreting है ना, so limestone generation में easy रहता है. So that helps in the restoration of corals. So this is widely used. India में भी बहुत जगह में use हुआ है. गुजरात में recently Forest Department of Gujarat had tried this method and it has been successful. है ना? So it's used in the restoration of damaged coral. You just have to know what is bio-rock. इससे answer directly मिल जाता है. It's a easy question. Question number 50, Miyawaki. Miyawaki forest भी पता है, like it's a method of growing forest in urban regions, in a small area growing large forest in an intense method. Okay, it's also called as fast forest. बहुत जल्दी in a small area, small plot you can grow this. That method is called as Miyawaki forest. Development of gardens using genetically modified flora. Creation of mini forest in urban areas. So बाकी सारा तो wind energy नहीं है, हटा दो. कमर्शियल फार्मिंग भी हटा दो. आंसर इज सिंपल. ओके, इट्स ए इजी क्वेश्चन. Question number 75, little bit tricky. You need to know in detail about this, then only you will be able to take a guess, otherwise it is difficult to guess. Which one of the following has been constituted under Environmental Protection Act of 1986? So I know it is very difficult to remember each and every organization, whether it is a statutory body or a constitutional body or a executive body and all, but at least you should know about the provisions of Environmental Protection Act. And one of the important authority established under Environmental Protection Act is Central Groundwater Authority. If you know about the major provisions of Environmental Protection Act, you could have answered this, but still this makes it whether you know it or you don't know it. You cannot take a guess. Right? Here the answer is Central Groundwater Authority. One of the major important bodies established under the Environmental Protection Act. Question number 77, Polar Code. Polar Code was in news recently because of the Arctic melting and the usage of these Arctic waters for transportation. Okay, recently International Maritime Organization had released certain code of conduct which should be followed by the ships which are traveling in these Arctic waters, which should be followed, and that is what is Polar Code. It is the international code of safety for ships operating in polar waters. Okay, again simple and direct. You know this, you can easily answer this. Fine. Greenwashing thoda sa tricky hai because so it is not a term which is not commonly used. What do you mean by greenwashing? अभी तो इतना सारा green related आ रहा है ना, so everything is green, everything is eco friendly. That creating false impression is greenwashing. Because if you create something as green, eco-friendly, people would definitely buy it. There's upcoming more market, you might get more investment. It's a kind of misleading. So nobody is able to go and check exactly सच में हो रहा है नहीं हो रहा है. So that is what is greenwashing. Creating a false impression that a company's products are eco-friendly and environmentally sound. That is what is greenwashing. Many of the countries, many of the companies are following this. So, कैसे? Creating a green color packet. प्रोडक्ट तो नॉर्मली रहता है, ऊपर का ग्रीन कलर बना दिया, लोगों को लगता है ठीक है थोड़ा सा इको फ्रेंडली है, ले लेते हैं, है ना. दैट इज व्हाट इज ग्रीन वॉशिंग. आंसर इज यस ए. ये भी थोड़ा सा डिफिकल्ट टाइप है. आई थिंक इट्स अ कॉम्बिनेशन ऑफ बोथ जियोग्राफी एज वेल एज एनवायरमेंट क्वेश्चन. Where is this largest solar park in India? It's in Rajasthan. It's not only the largest park in India, it is the largest park in the entire world. It's in Rajasthan near to Jodhpur. The place is called as Bhadla, Bhadla, in Rajasthan, not in Gujarat. Okay, it covers a total area of 14,000 acres. 14,000 acres. So first statement is wrong. Second one, Kerala has a fully solar powered international airport. कौन सा? Cochin. Cochin. It is not only India's, it is the first airport in the world that is fully powered by solar energy. The second statement is right. Third one, Goa has the largest floating solar photovoltaic project in India. कहाँ पर है? No, no. It's in Andhra Pradesh, in Simhadri. Okay, it was installed by BHEL. Fine? Tricky, difficult, because you have to know about it exactly. अगर एक दो पता है तो एलिमिनेट करके निकाल सकते हैं, बट स्टिल इट इज इंफॉर्मेशन बेस्ड, मेक्स इट डिफिकल्ट. द आंसर इज 2 ओनली. हाँ, दिस इज आवर फेवरेट क्वेश्चन, टुडेज फेवरेट क्वेश्चन, बिकॉज स्लाइटली डिबेटेबल. So let me tell you about those statement which is not debatable. Second statement में आ जाओ. The question is with reference to Indian laws about wildlife protection, consider the following statements. Second statement में देखो, when wild animal is declared protected, such animal is entitled for equal protection whether it is found inside the protected areas or outside the protected area. Is it right? ये तो logical है. ऐसे नहीं बोल सकते कि शेर बाहर आ गया तो उसको मार सकते हैं. So that is wrong, right? So this is totally right. Right? Third one. Apprehension of protected wild animals becoming a danger to human life is sufficient ground for capturing or killing it. So here the word is apprehension. You have to read the statement very carefully. Of course, if a wild animal becomes danger to human life, it is sufficient ground for capturing or killing. But just the apprehension is not. Apprehension मतलब लग रहा है, सच में हो रहा है नहीं हो रहा है ये पता नहीं, ऐसे लग रहा है कि this might be dangerous. So that is not a ground. It should be clearly established that this is totally dangerous for human life. Then only you can give the order. Usually India में allow नहीं करते हैं, unless it is well established that this is a man eater or it has gone beyond damage, beyond control चला गया. Okay, वापस recover करना बहुत मुश्किल है. Only in that case they will give the order for killing. Just by apprehension we cannot say so. ठीक है, third eliminate कर दिया. We have second. So you have to go for first one. First one is the trickiest part. Wild animals are the sole property of government. Is it given in Wildlife Protection Act? Wildlife Protection Act mentions that any animal which is other than vermin, which is killed or which is hunted down, is the sole property of Government of India. But it is not clearly mentioned. Every wild animal which is living is also sole property of Government of India. But Bombay High Court in its judgment has clearly said that every wild animal is a sole property of Government of India. In the context of one of the cases where it discusses regarding the compensation to be given by the damage caused by wild animal. It says that wild animals, all the wild animals are the property of Government of India, तो आपको compensation देना ही है. You have to give the compensation. In one of the cases, the Bombay High Court had declared. And that is where you have to read the stem very carefully. with reference to Indian laws. It does not talk about Wildlife Protection Act specifically. So every rule of Bombay High Court or Supreme Court, it is equivalent to law. So that makes the first statement right. Answer is ye. Okay? It is a very tricky question. You have to read the statements very carefully, then only you will get the answer. ये तो सिंपल है. एंट के बारे में तो पता है ना. If any of you had the opportunity to see a ant hill, you will see a lot of fungus. उसके अंदर बहुत सारा फंगस निकलता है. Basically what the ants do, they will bring all the food, debris of leaves, and in some places they will just deposit. In that the fungus comes and they also use it for food. It's a method of farming done by ants. So they live in close relationship, mutualism. Okay, it's about ant. ठीक है? It's a question from ecology. Usually ecology में ऐसे वाला एक question होता है about the interaction of different species or a peculiar characteristic, and this was the question. The last question, question number 100. Consider the following: carbon monoxide, nitrogen oxide, ozone, sulfur dioxide. Which of the above in the environment are causes of acid rain? नाइट्रोजन ऑक्साइड ठीक है, सल्फर डाइऑक्साइड भी ठीक है, इससे एसिड रेन होते हैं, हमें पता है. ओके, नाइट्रोजन ऑक्साइड से नाइट्रिक ऑक्साइड, सल्फर डाइऑक्साइड से सल्फ्यूरिक एसिड. ओके, हमें बन सकते हैं. व्हाट अबाउट द अदर? कार्बन मोनोऑक्साइड, नो. कार्बन मोनोऑक्साइड विल नॉट बिकम एसिडिक एंड कॉज एसिड रेन. ओके, ऐसे तो जो नॉर्मल प्रेसिपिटेशन भी हम एसिड रेन नहीं बोल सकते. कार्बोनिक एसिड इज नॉट इक्वल टू एसिड रेन. ठीक है. इफ यू एलिमिनेट 1, you are left with 2 and 4 only. Ozone is eliminated automatically. Ozone is not the cause of acid rain. Ozone is the resultant of smog. Smog formation में बनता है. Okay, it is not the cause of acid rain. The formation of ozone will not cause acid rain. Acid rain के लिए चाहिए the emission of sulfur and nitrogen compounds, which will react in the Earth's atmosphere, and that causes the acid rain. ठीक है? The answer is B, 2 and 4 only. Now the overall analysis of environment section. So overall analysis of environment section, I would say the section of environment was on expected lines. It was on expected line. That does not mean that they are easy. It was expected that environment will be driven by current affairs. It has been the trend. Environment, more than 50% of the questions would be influenced by current affairs. Fine. This year it is little bit more. And the focus on traditional areas has been little bit less, but still you have to completely depend on current affairs for environment. Without current affairs, environment is incomplete. You cannot just read some book. एक book पढ़ने से पूरा हो जाते हैं, उससे बाहर आने आपको. You have to read the current affairs news and understand from the environmental perspective, and then that is your preparation for environment. You have to read the current affairs. At the same time, you have to concentrate on the conventional areas also. Conventional areas भी होना चाहिए, that is the base, but upon which you have to read the current affairs. So that makes the environmental section moderately difficult again, because there are certain easy questions which we saw. Easy questions you can answer it. You know, you have basic preparations भी answer कर सकते हैं, but there are many difficult questions. That's why overall moderately difficult. What are the sources? I would suggest keep any one compilation for the traditional area. Okay, for example, Vision IAS का जो compilation है, you can use that. है ना? Traditional area refers to the static part, ecology, environment, biodiversity, the concepts, as well as the pollution, degradation का जो static components है. In addition to that, you need to read newspaper, and there is no alternative for newspaper. Okay, and any current affair compilation is must, and there you have to pick the environment topics. Fine. And as usual, as UPSC has also suggested, you need to develop a general curiosity for all the environment related topics which are happening around you. ठीक है? So if you practice in environment, definitely there is advantage. Many of the terminologies which you would know, वो थोड़ा सा दिमाग में रहेगा ये practice, question practice करने से. So in as a whole, I would say environment you can make it scoring if you practice well and revise current affairs thoroughly. Fine. So that is all from environment and geography section. If you have any doubts, so as usual, you can use this mail ID. And you can also connect with me in this Twitter ID. Fine. I wish you all the best to all of you. I hope all of you clear. Thank you very much.